It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. England kick off their Euros campaign with a 1-0 victory over Serbia, scored by Jude Bellingham. But there was a pre-match trouble in the host city as fans clash and police step in. Also tonight, President Zelensky calls for Russia to leave Ukraine as 80 countries jointly call for territorial integrity, but a number of nations refuse to join in. A warning that both the Labour and the Conservatives' manifesto would squeeze NHS funds. We love you, Papa. The Princess of Wales takes a new Father's Day photo of William and their children. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Good evening. The final whistle has just blown on England's opening game of the Euro 2024. And after an early goal from Jude Bellingham, it ended 1-0 to Gareth Southgate's team. Tens of thousands of fans descended on Gelsenkirchen in Germany to watch the match. There was heightened security amid some minor violence earlier in the day, and arrests were made. Our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, reports from the stadium.
Go, go, go!
This is why police were so concerned. Fighting in Gelsenkirchen, hours before England's Euros opener against Serbia. Riot officers racing to this restaurant. As chairs, tables and bottles are thrown. Clashes Sky News was the only media to witness. 7 Serbians were taken into custody, but police said England fans were also involved.
You saw about 50 lads just come down from the right-hand side and just go straight through the pub. Bottles, chairs, whatever they could grab, they were throwing.
Some of the guys, Serbian fans, came out of them and they threw them, you know, like there was a fight and everything was over.
This match was always labelled high risk by police, and we saw the situation escalate very rapidly. As the glass bottles were thrown, the fighting unfolded. We're told from the other side, a group of people in balaclavas came round to attack the bar being used by Serbia fans. But this was an isolated flashpoint.
Southgate, you're the one. You still turn me on.
Police praised an exuberant atmosphere around the stadium.
Walker.
And England had much to enjoy inside after 13 minutes.
Saka does get it across and it's headed in by Bellingham.
How quickly Jude Bellingham has become integral to England, and still only 20. Creative celebrations too. But Serbia were creating danger. Kieran Trippier with the block, England clinging on. Saved by Serbia's inability to finish. And Jordan Pickford came to England's rescue. An anxious end for the Three Lions after all the first half dominance.
Well, our correspondents Rob Harris and Siobhan Robbins are both in Gelsenkirchen for us. And Rob, to you first at the stadium. A victory,
But that was how it was at the start of the last Euros too. A 1-0 win then as well. And of course, England went all the way through to the final. So that will give England confidence tonight. And the captain, Harry Kane, just saying now it was a deserved win and it's all about getting through. And on top of this, a boost because in the other group game, Denmark drew 1-1 with Slovenia. So England have a 2-point cushion after match day 1. That will be encouraging. But, of course, there'll be questions of Gareth Southgate, of his team, about how they can't turn domination into more goals and to find that cutting edge to ensure it isn't as nervy, so they aren't going into those final minutes having to hold on so anxiously as it was. But they have got the win, and they've also seen this new-look squad come through a really tough test against Serbia with the victory. And most reassuringly, I think, for them will be the fact everything seems to have passed off here smoothly with a joyful, buoyant atmosphere. The England fans trailing out of the stadium singing Sweet Caroline, the anthem of that run to the final 3 years ago. The optimistic and upbeat end to the night after those minor issues with the fighting during the day. Now, for England, it's on to the next game on Thursday.
And Siobhan, you're at the fan zone with some very happy England fans, I imagine.
Yeah, have a look behind me. You can see that people are starting to dance by the stage. If we spin round a little bit, you can see this little group here with the flags over their shoulders having a right boogie. There was such a cheer when that final whistle went here. We've been serenaded with songs, there's been dancing. It was quite tense in the last 15 minutes or so, particularly when Harry Kane missed that shot of goal. But they are utterly relieved here tonight. The party has well and truly started for England fans in Gelsenkirchen. I think they're now heading into town to try and get some more drinks.
OK, Siobhan, we'll leave them to celebrate. Siobhan and Rob, thank you both. Well, millions of people were watching the game here in the UK. Sky's Rachel Venables was with fans in Greenwich in South East London.
They couldn't make it to West Germany, but for these fans in Greenwich, it didn't seem to matter. The party had arrived.
We'll get to the semi-finals and France will beat us. Yeah. Sorry, that's negative.
It's coming home.
Hopefully.
It's coming home.
You think?
Hopefully it comes home this time, finally.
I think we should win this game. Like, we should. If we don't win this game, we're going to be nervous the rest of the game.
Come on, England!
Hundreds of tickets were sold for this fan zone in Greenwich, with even former England players in attendance.
My advice to the players, just enjoy it. You know, your career goes so quickly. Enjoy the moment and try and win something and bring it home for the fans, because I think it's been a long time, 1966, hasn't it?
2024 seems like a nice rounded number, doesn't it? So the last Euros just missed out, obviously, so there's no time better than now.
Many fans are pinning their tournament hopes on the young star Jude Bellingham, none more so than at his childhood home in Stourbridge. For these young players, the result never in doubt.
Well, we've got Bellingham, haven't we? He's one of the best in the world at the moment.
Last time we were really, really close to winning, so hopefully we can do it this year. Come on, England!
For hours in Greenwich, the pints were flowing. And once England scored, the pints went flying.
Any pre-match nerves that might have existed amongst these fans disappeared in a haze of beer as soon as that first goal went in. These fans are celebrating like they've already won the tournament.
At the final whistle, across the country, again and again, the reaction was the same. Fans ecstatic at England's first confident steps in this tournament. Rachel Venables, Sky News in Greenwich.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says he would be prepared to enter into peace talks with Russia if Moscow's forces left his country. He was speaking at a summit of more than 100 nations in Switzerland aimed at finding a path to a ceasefire. More than 80 nations agreed to what a peace plan should look like, but a number of countries, including India and Saudi Arabia, chose not to join. Tom Cheshire reports.
Not a dress rehearsal, not even a proper first draft. But these are the scenes, leaders meeting, diplomats haggling, that will eventually accompany any peace deal.
We are at a war and we don't have time for prolonged work. Moving to peace means acting fast. And when every step is worked out, the path will be opened for the second peace summit, and thus for ending this war.
There is a very long way to go. One of today's tiny steps was this international group calling the conflict a war for the first time. But 80 countries called for the territorial integrity of Ukraine to be the basis for any peace agreement to end Russia's war. Some countries who attended the conference, including India and Saudi Arabia, did not endorse that final statement, however. And all of this can only be academic when Russia, the belligerent, was absent, uninvited. China, very much invited, and who many hope will eventually bring Russia to a table like this, was also missing.
One key question remains: how and when can Russia be included in the process? We have heard it in many of your statements. A lasting solution must involve both parties.
All the while, of course, Russia continues to bombard Ukraine. The latest from Moscow was that Putin was not ruling out talks, but wants unspecified guarantees. Russia's position is that Ukraine should give up the 4 regions Russia declared it had annexed in 2022, so it remains a meaningless offer. And Ukraine demands that Russian troops leave its territory and that its borders with Russia, including Crimea, are restored.
Russia can start the negotiations with us tomorrow if they pull out from our legal territories, and that is in respect to the United Nations Charter.
The details of a text may eventually be drawn up in a place like this. Fountain pens exchanged, treaties signed. But peace won't be decided here in the green rolling hills. It will be fought for and died for in the trenches of Ukraine. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.
Reform UK will be launching its manifesto tomorrow, giving voters a look at its priorities with Nigel Farage as the leader of the party. Meanwhile, today, a leading health think tank has warned that both Labour and the Conservatives would leave the NHS worse off. The Nuffield Trust said it had analysed both parties' manifestos and found that they plan to squeeze funding. Sky's political correspondent Tamara Cohen reports.
COVID, strikes and funding struggles have left the NHS in need of major surgery. Getting it back on track is a top priority for voters. The Labour leader has promised more appointments and staff to cut backlogs. His party rejects a new analysis showing their plans would see NHS spending squeezed.
Where I disagree with the Nuffield Trust is the assumption they're making that this manifesto is the grand sum total of any future budgets and any future spending reviews. That's just wrong. That's not the way election campaigns work. Where Labour is making the fundamental argument of this election is we've got to get the economy back to growth.
Number crunching by the Nuffield Trust shows the major parties planning smaller increases on health than during the height of austerity during the coalition years.
What this really bodes for is the NHS continuing to do what it's done for the last few years, which it's lurched from one month to the next, endlessly having to go back to the government asking for more money.
Labour are promising tens of thousands more appointments. The Conservatives are promising to cut waiting lists. Is any of this likely to happen?
These plans aren't realistic. All of the main parties in England, if they were to deliver what they're promising, without making substantial cuts elsewhere in the NHS, are going to have to commit substantial additional funds above what they have so far earmarked.
Whatever the outcome, patients at this clinic in South London were sceptical about the pace of change.
Nobody's got any answers. I haven't heard anyone say anything that's going to improve the situation drastically.
It is a top priority. I think they need more funding.
I think we need to have more doctors, we need to invest more.
Conservative ministers continue to hammer the message about the risk of tax rises under Labour, despite the party saying they've no plans for any.
We've got a manifesto, fully costed, fully funded, that cuts people's taxes, cuts the taxes on working people. By contrast, the Labour Party is going to put them up. That's a very clear choice for people. And Labour won't rule out things like council tax revaluation.
Hospital waiting lists still rising, junior doctors planning more walkouts, and the pressure of an ageing population all top of the next government's in-tray. Questions over whether the remedies on offer do more than manage the pain. Tamara Cohen, Sky News, Westminster.
8 years ago today, the Labour MP Jo Cox was murdered in Birstall in West Yorkshire by a far-right extremist. Today, amid an election campaign, there are still major concerns for the safety of politicians, with many calling for better protection. Sky's chief North of England correspondent, Greg Milam, has been speaking to Jo Cox's widower and has this report.
For the family of Jo Cox, this will always be a deeply personal anniversary. Brendan Cox said they'd be remembering all she meant to them and to so many others. But also, 8 years after she was killed by a far-right extremist, that she'd be gutted to see this election being used to spread division. As with the murder of the Conservative MP David Amess, we know what it can lead to.
There are too many examples, and of course David Amess and of course Jo at the most extreme end of that, but on a much more mundane daily basis there are MPs who are scared for their security. I've spoken to lots of them. There are councillors who are scared for their security, and the reason that that is a problem is not just for those individuals, but it denigrates our politics.
This campaign has already seen incidents targeting the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. Labour's Rosie Duffield announced she's withdrawn from hustings events because she didn't feel safe. Last year, one of Mike Amesbury's constituents was handed a suspended jail sentence for stalking and harassment.
Politics is a passionate thing. There's nothing wrong with passion and emotions, but you've got to draw a line. You can't be threatening individuals or provoking threats to others or spreading hate and division.
Earlier this year, pro-Palestinian protesters targeted the home of Conservative Tobias Ellwood. It is a new reality for politicians, he says.
I remember back in 2005 when I first became an MP, how enthusiastic I was. I felt it a sense of duty as well to encourage others to follow my footsteps. There's some big questions now for any individual. They must feel safe. Many reasons not to go into politics, but security cannot be one of them.
For politicians wanting to engage with the public at election time, there will always be some risk, but security has been increased. On this anniversary, a reminder of what hatred and division can do and the terrible consequences that can follow. Greg Milam, Sky News.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has criticised plans by his country's military to hold daily tactical pauses in fighting in Gaza. The Israeli military says the pause will allow increased quantities of humanitarian aid into the territory. The IDF says it will hold fire around roads leading from the Karam Shalom crossing to the European hospital via the village of Al Bayuk. That would allow aid agencies to access the Salah al-Din highway to deliver supplies to other parts of Gaza. The IDF says the daylight pause in fighting will begin in the Rafah area at 8 a.m, that's 6 a.m. UK time, and remain in effect until 7 p.m, 5 p.m. UK time.
It's increasingly chaotic and it's always been a dangerous place. So it's not just about getting aid in, it's also that responsibility on the occupying power, Israel, to make sure we can get it to those people who desperately need it, and they do desperately need it.
Surrey police say an officer has been removed from frontline duties pending an investigation after a cow running loose was deliberately hit by a police car. The 10-month-old calf called Bo Lucy was hit twice by the vehicles in Staines-upon-Thames. The owners say the animal suffered cuts and grazes and is recovering. Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis have wished Prince William a happy Father's Day in their first post on Instagram. They said, "We love you, Papa," alongside an image of them all by the seaside, taken by the Princess of Wales early this year. Prince William also posted a photograph of his younger self with his father to mark Father's Day. The image shows William, aged 2, playing football with the King in 1984. For many people, summer and music festivals go hand in hand, but rising costs and other factors have forced dozens of cancellations already, and it's expected there'll be more to come. Festival organisers say expensive tickets and artist fees are creating a perfect storm. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer reports.
If fields could talk.
This will be tents everywhere, so the audience will be in the middle of the festival with entertainment over there, entertainment up there.
Famed for its distinct brand of theatrical hedonism, for over 2 decades the Secret Garden Party has seen stars like Lily Allen and Ed Sheeran play here way before their careers took off. But regardless of the weather this summer, a storm is brewing.
What people maybe don't realise is, where this counterculture is being taken over.
So far this year, 45 UK music festivals have been postponed or cancelled. The Association of Independent Festivals forecasting that figure could double before the year's out. Post-COVID, post-Brexit, wildly unpredictable supply chain costs make planning virtually impossible. But for Freddie Fellows, just as galling is seeing the industry betray its hippie roots, with smaller festivals being bought out by big corporations.
I'm not standing here saying that the internationals are awful and evil or anything like that. I think they are what they are, but what they are is an apex predator. They are there to make money and to, reward their shareholders.
As appetite for festivals grew, the counterculture movement became big business. Sky News analysis found the owners of Ticketmaster, Live Nation and its subsidiaries, now own about 30% of the events running in 2024. You'll of course have heard of the big ones like Download and Latitude, but it also now has shares in some of the more alternative offerings like Boomtown Fair and Wilderness. While critics find this problematic, Live Nation told us the festival market is defined by its competitive nature, and that while its practice of signing artists to exclusivity contracts might be making it hard for independent festivals to book decent lineups, it says that's just industry standard now.
These small festivals and small venues are where your headliners begin. You don't just walk out on a Glastonbury stage or on the O2, you know. You've got to cut your teeth in these smaller places.
So should whoever gets into number 10 look at VAT?
What we're asking for is temporarily, just for 3 years, a reduction from that 20% down to 5%, like we had during the pandemic. That would give the space for the operators and the supply chain to slowly and sensibly recover, rebuild.
And if that's not all, there's also a new wave of protest from activists and artists targeting sponsors who have alleged links to oil companies or Israel. Last week, Barclays pulled out of the Latitude, Download and Isle of Wight festivals because of protests over its links to the defence industry. For festival goers, a time when there's much more to consider than just the music. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Time now to get all the latest sports news with Mark.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
60, 61, perfect. 64, 65, 66.
Let's go, guys! Come on!
It's a tough session, this, because they've just been in like 20-odd degree heat in South Africa, and then everything works so efficiently out there.
Should we just explain it's 7 degrees and it's Manchester?
It's Manchester on a cold, windy day. Coming to this environment, it's grim. But this is what makes you strong. If you can run these times here, what are you going to run when you're in, you know, these faster races abroad in nice weather? Makes you tough being in the north.
And there is no better way to describe Keely Hodgkinson. A tougher, more determined competitor will be a challenge to find.
Ready, 2, 1, go.
Add world-class talent, and there's the stardust needed to make an Olympic champion.
Looking at the Mo Farahs and the Jess Ennis, it's like, how do they do it every year, over and over again? And I look back now and think, oh, you have done it now for a good couple of years, but it's just keeping that going, I think, is the one thing I'd like to do, and just keep reeling in the medals.
Hodgkinson shot to prominence as an 800-metre runner at the Tokyo Olympics, taking silver.
So far, I've medalled at every championships I've ever been to, which is quite hard to do.
3 women dominate the 800 metres. Hodgkinson, Athing Mu from the USA, and Kenya's Mary Mora.
Unfortunately, I've been second every time.
Easy.
Now I'm at a point where I'm like, right, well, how did we get that gold? And I think every year I've gotten closer and I'm in better shape. So hopefully when that all comes together in a few weeks, I'll be better than I even was before. So that's a great position to be in going into Paris. But I do actually think it's all in the mind. The little tiny split seconds that you make, you really just need to believe and kind of run a bit fearless, because if you don't risk it, you won't get the rewards.
On your marks, set, go.
Coaches Trevor Painter and wife Jenny Meadows, who was a seriously good 800-metre runner herself, know Keely well. She's part of the family.
I just really gelled with Jenny and Trevor when I first met them when I was like 15. So I knew them way before I joined their setup here. And I just think Trevor's probably said before, like, his focus is happy athlete is a fast athlete. So I do try and create that environment, but I think we have a really good relationship that he knows when he's annoying me, and he knows when I'm not in the mood for his dad jokes.
Keely's like our eldest daughter, and all the athletes are, you know, we treat them all like that, and we'll do as much as we can for them, like any parent would.
So that's the buzz for you?
Yeah, I just like seeing them grow and develop as athletes.
Stand in mum and dad or parents or family when you need them.
Older sister,
Oh, yes. older sister, granddad. No, what they like, Keely?
You had that one, so I say, I just think of my mum.
Mum, actually, so yeah. I could technically be your mum, but yeah. How do you rate us, Keely?
I rate you 11 out of 10.
Ah.
Trevor and Jenny's 3-year-old daughter doesn't often come to training, but when she does...
She's just been a little bundle of joy to bring on, and like you say, you've seen today, she doesn't really come actually really often to this track anymore. But when she does, she just brings a really nice atmosphere, and it kind of brings you back down to earth a little bit. You just see this little life walking around, doing whatever she wants.
So, to Paris, the night of a hopeful Olympic final.
Are you all right down there?
She is prepared to hurt herself, you know, and it takes bravery to start a session knowing you're going to end up like that.
If everything's going smoothly like this year, I'm quite cool and confident, and it's just about, it's a good opportunity. Let's see what we can do.
You heard the coach's verdict. Go guys, go. Bring it on. Geraint Hughes, Sky Sports.
Gianfranco, what did it mean for you to play for Italy?
I became a footballer because of the 1982 World Cup when Italy...
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by Stephen Bush, Associate Editor and columnist at The Financial Times, and by Kate Andrews, Economics Editor at The Spectator. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the FT. Its headline, Reeves pledges to tear down EU trade barriers in a reset for relations. We'll be right back with that and other stories. Do stay with us.